Good evening. Am I audible to all of you? Yes? Okay. So let us start now. I think I have given sufficient time for others to join. Today we will discuss verb tenses. Now, even though this can be pretty difficult in the sense that it has there are lots of tenses, there are lots of things that we would need to understand. But what I've seen is that from my experience, if you understand the simple concept of past, present, and future, and you are familiar with English, then I don't think you will really face much of a problem as far as the verb tenses are concerned. Because generally, they do not directly test you on verb tenses. Okay, they do not directly test you on verb tenses. Indirectly, sometimes they can, yes, but wherever they test you, even in GMAT, wherever they test you, it is not very difficult to find out what should be the answer. So this session is going to be more of theory. You'll have to brace yourself. It can get boring at times, but then please bear with me. NMAT as well, even in NMAT, even yes, NMAT also gives you some error correction questions, but the level is very easy. NMAT as a whole, the paper is very easy. Okay. Okay. Now let us understand verb tenses, uh, verb and sentence structure. We all know that in a sentence, what is the verb? Verb is that word in the sentence which tells us. What does it tell us about? It tells us about action, it tells us about existence or being, or it tells us about possession. So verbs give you three kinds of information. Verbs tell you what action is happening, in which state somebody or something is, and what somebody possesses. So these are the three functions of a verb. And a sentence cannot be called a sentence unless it has a verb. Without a verb, a group of words cannot be called a sentence. So verb is the crux. It is the most vital part of the sentence. Okay. Now, for example, if you look at these statements, it says, Joy is playing basketball. Now, in this sentence, is playing is the verb here, and it is describing an action. What is Joy doing? Whereas in the second sentence, it says Amartya Sen is a great writer. Now, Amartya Sen is not doing any action. He is not performing any action. But yes, we still have a verb, and that verb is. The verb is describes to us the state in which Amartya Sen is. That means it describes his existence or being. And third, when you say I had many friends when I was younger, then we have a verb here, had. Okay, had is the verb, and even though no action is happening here, the verb had tells us what you possessed when you were younger. So these are the three roles of verbs. They tell you about action, they tell you about existence or being, or they tell you about possession. You can see those verbs that tell you about existence or being. Those verbs are words like is, are, am, was, were, be, being, and been. That's it. There are only three verbs that show possession: has, have, had. That's it. But when you come to verbs of action, they are innumerable. They are innumerable because there can be innumerable kinds of actions. So this is just a few of them. When we play, when we do something, when we test, we go, we read, we write, we swim, we sleep, we study, we sing, we dance. And it goes on and on and on and on. So when you see majority of the verbs are actually verbs of action. Majority of the verbs are verbs of action, but that does not mean that verbs of existence and verbs of possession, they are not important. No, they also play important role. The only thing is that they are limited. Right? Is this clear? I think till now for everyone. Anybody has any doubt, please ask. Right. Now, when you look at verbs, just like nouns and pronouns can have different forms when used differently in sentences, similarly, verbs also have different forms. Verbs also have different forms. Uh, there are four forms called V1, V2, V3, and V4. As you can see in the table here, there are four forms. That means the same verb, depending on the time. Depending on the time, the same verb. Uh, when you are talking about the present time, we say do or does. But when you talk about the past, you say did. When you talk about the past participle, we say done. And when you talk about the progressive or present participle, it's called do. So every verb has four forms. That means there are four spellings that it has, and these spellings are used in different situations. We will see. We will see in what situation which form is used. That is something which I will tell you, right? Now, first and second are very simple. First and second are very simple. V1 is used in the present tense. V2 is used in the past tense. Many people have problem with V3 and V4. V3, which is also called past participle form of the verb, and V4, which is called the progressive or present participle form of the verb. Actually, why are they called participles? Why are they called participles? Anybody has any idea? I think I explained this in the grammar review session that what is a participle? Participle is a word which forms from a verb. Okay, it forms from a verb and it acts like an adjective. So you can see that the word drunk, even though it's a verb, but it's used as an adjective. A drunk man. What kind of a man is he? He's drunk. Okay, okay. Plus we have hearing aids. What kind of aids do we have? Hearing aids. So the word hearing, even though it is a verb, but it can be used as an adjective. So when a verb can be used as an adjective, it is called a participle. When a verb is used as an adjective, it is called a participle, right? Now question is, what is the difference between past participle and present participle? When the participle is in the ing form, it is called present participle. When the participle is not in the ing form, it is called the past participle. So simple. So these are four forms. These are four forms of verbs. Okay, and this is not an exhaustive list because over here we have just, let's say, 6, 7, 8 verbs, but there are innumerable verbs. So you'll have to check. You will have to check on any online resource. If you're not sure about the four forms of a particular verb, then you'll have to check online what exactly are the four forms of that particular verb. And we will be using these four forms in different situations under different tenses. Okay, did you understand what is a participle? Right. Now let's discuss verb tenses. Till now we were discussing verbs. Now let's discuss tenses. Actually, tenses refer to the time, past, present, and future. When we say that an action. When we talk about an action, we would like to know when that action happened. When we talk about a state, when we talk about possession, we would like to know the time during which that person was in that state, or time when that person was in possession of something. So how do we indicate time? We indicate time through the use of tenses. So tense is nothing but it is used to indicate the time and sometimes also the continuation or completeness of an action in relation to time of speaking. Okay, because it's quite possible that you had something in the past, or you are in possession of something right now, or you will be in possession of something few years from now. So these three are three different time periods. So whenever any tense talks about time, whenever any verb gives you hints about time, then it is called verb tense. Okay. Now common sense tells us that there can be three time periods: the past, the present, and the future. Therefore, it means that there are three types of tenses: the past tense, present tense, and future tense, because there are three time periods. Now, it is not as simple as that. Even though broadly, yes, there are three time periods, but sometimes what happens is it's possible that something started in the past and it ended in the past. This is one possibility. Another possibility is that something started in the past, but in the present also it continues. That is a possibility. And it's possible that in the future it may continue. So whenever, I'm talking about just these two simple situations, situation number one and situation number two. So it is not that everything will have the same timeline. No, there are so many things that that you know that have that have different timelines. So that is why when I want to say that something started in the past and ended in the past, I will have to say it differently. Okay, it'll have to be different from when I want to say that something started in the past, but it continues in the present and it may continue in the future. That is why to look at different situations, every time period has four variations. Okay, all the three time periods, they have four variations. These four variations talk about different situations. Okay, and this means that if you actually extend or elaborate, then they're not just three tenses. In all, there are 12 tenses. In all, there are 12 tenses. Okay. Now, what are these four variations? In every time period, what are the four variations? These four variations, they are called simple tense, continuous or progressive tense, perfect tense, or perfect continuous tense. Okay. The nomenclature right now may look pretty confusing, but remember that these are four variations that you will see with all the three time periods: past, present, as well as future. So this, what does this boil down to? This actually boils down to the following table, and the following table is here. So altogether, we have not three but 12 tenses. There are 12 tenses, because when you look at the present, in the present there are four variations. In the past, there are four variations. In the future, there are four variations. Out of these, remember that the last one, this one, it is rarely used. It is not common. It is rarely used. So even if you forget about it, no issues. But you will have to remember the other 11. So now we'll take a look. We will take a look at these 12 tenses one by one. Okay, one by one we will take a look, and what we'll do is that we will take a look at the variations. First, we will talk about the simple tenses. What is simple present tense? What is simple past? What is simple future? Then we'll talk about the progressive tenses. What is present progressive, past progressive, future progressive? In what situation you use what? Then we'll talk about perfect tenses. Then we'll talk about perfect progressive. This is how we will go about it. Is this clear? Anybody requires any clarity till now? Okay. I mean, these things are pretty basic. I think you already know, most of you already know about them. And even if you have forgotten a few things, then it would be, this is going to be more of a recapitulation of what you already know. So let us start with the discussion. First of all, we will discuss simple tenses. Okay, we will discuss the first variation, which is simple tenses. Now, simple tenses can be past, present, and future. So there are three simple tenses: present simple tense, simple present tense, simple past tense, simple future tense. Quickly, let's take a look. What exactly happens in the simple present tense? When do we use the simple present tense? Now remember, most of the times, majority of the times when you are communicating, you actually use the simple present tense. It is the most common form in English. And when do we use it? We use this tense when we are talking about number one. When we talk about those actions which happen regularly with a certain frequency. Actions that happen regularly. Generally, you will know that these actions happen regularly because in these sentences you will use words like always, seldom, rarely, often, etc. etc. For example, when you say, my friend often draws nice posters. I never drink milk. These are things that happen regularly. Okay? Now remember, these happen regularly, and another thing is that it has no connection with the past or the future. You cannot see from this sentence, when you say, my friend often draws nice posters, or when you say, I never drink milk, from this sentence, you cannot come to know when in the past your friend started to draw the nice posters, until what time in the future he's going to, okay, he will continue to draw nice posters. So there is no link. There is no link with the past and the future. As of today, it is valid. What is valid? The fact that my friend draws nice posters and I never drink milk. Remember this, right? The second situation, the second situation in which you use the simple present tense is when you talk about universal facts or when you talk about things in general. For example, the earth is round, the earth revolves around the sun rises in the east, I understand English, I don't like fish, or he doesn't like fish. These are universal facts or things in general. New Delhi is the capital of India. You are studying at alphanumeric education. Okay, and you will generally see that in the simple present tense we generally use V1 form of the verb. Generally, okay. So simple present tense, when you want to talk about something that happens with a certain frequency, when you want to talk about universal facts or things in general, the matter is not closed because there are lots of things, lots of situations where we use simple present tense. It is also used when you talk about a timetable, when you talk about fixed arrangements, scheduled events. This is just like something happening with frequency. When you talk about timetables or when you talk about two actions in the present, one follows after the other. First something happens, then after that the second action happens on a regular basis. So when you say the plane flies to London every Monday, the plane flies to London every Monday, this is a fact. As of today, this is a fact, this is the timetable, this is scheduled, this is the frequency of the plane. Similarly, when I say first I get up, then I have breakfast, this is a timetable that I follow on a daily basis. You understand? And the fourth situation in which we use the simple present tense is whenever we want to give instructions to anyone. If you want to say open your books, close the gates, get out, shut up, don't tell anyone, all these are instructions. So all instructions are in the simple present tense. So what are the situations? The situations that we saw under simple present tense, I told you it is the most common form. Generally we use V1 form of the verb, and we use simple present tense when we talk about things that happen with a frequency, when we talk about universal facts or things in general, when we talk about fixed arrangements, scheduled events, okay, when we talk about instructions. Simple present tense. Anybody has any doubt? Okay. Now let's talk about the simple past tense. Simple past tense. Now this is important because there's going to be a lot of confusion. Remember that the simple past tense is used when you want to talk about actions or situations in the past. But what kind of actions or situations in the past? That is important. Remember, simple past tense will talk about only those actions or situations in the past that were completed in the past. They do not, you know, they do not jump the time frame and move into the present. It is used for completed actions, actions that were completed in the past. It can be any report, any incident, any description. Usually, you will see that in the simple past tense, the time or the approximate time when the event took place will either be stated or it will be understood from the context. For example, when you say, I visited Berlin last week, usually you will see that the time when it happened in the past is usually mentioned, not always. Andrew watched TV yesterday. Who opened this window? Now, even though over here the time when this happened in the past is not mentioned, okay? But when you say who opened this window, then you are actually trying to say that somebody came, opened the window, the action is complete. But the moment I add the word has, who has opened this window, then the meaning changes. Who opened this window and who has opened the window? These two statements, they would mean different. Okay? Because when I say who opened this window, implication is that somebody opened the window, action is finished. But when I say who has opened this window, then it means that the window is probably still open and all the dust from outside is coming inside and I'm feeling cold, or the entire room is getting dirty. So even though this action happened in the past, somebody opened the window, but the consequences are there in the present. Okay? So remember, when you want to, whenever you want to say that something happened in the past and the consequences are there in the present, then it is not simple past tense. It is not simple past tense because in the simple past tense, when something happens in the past, it completes. Whatever the consequences get completed. So it does not jump from one time frame to another. Okay? This is the first situation. Remember always that the action has to be completed in the past. Plus, it's not just one action. Perhaps there was a series of completed actions in the past. Again, the word is completed actions. It's possible that in the past there was a series of completed actions. For example, first I got up, then I had breakfast. Action complete. Okay. Usually we use V2 and V1 form of the verbs. Both are used in the simple past tense. Both are used in the simple past tense. So it is used when we want to talk about actions in the past that were completed. I've shown you two situations here. There is a third situation and a fourth situation also. If something happened on a regular basis, on a repeated basis, or if an event was habitual event in the past, just like in the simple present, we talk about things that happen on a regular basis. Similarly, if something happened on a regular basis, repeated basis, or a habitual basis in the past, then also that statement is said to be in the simple past tense. We say, we went out for a meal every evening on holiday. He got up at 7 o'clock every morning to go to work. So this is what he used to do on a regular basis in the past. Okay. Plus, sometimes what happens is, it's possible that an action was occurring in the past. An action was in progress. It was happening and it was interrupted. So whenever you want to say that an action was happening and it was interrupted, then you will see that in these kind of sentences, two tenses are used. One is called the past progressive. They were playing cards. That means this action was happening in the past. This is past progressive. They were playing cards when the telephone rang. Okay, so this interruption part, the part which interrupts the action in continuity, that part is kept in the simple present. It is in simple past. So the verb rang is simple past. So we see a combination of two tenses in sentence number 4. Did you understand simple past tense? Okay. Now after simple past tense, we have simple future tense. Very, very easy. Simple future tense is used when you want to talk about the future, and we can talk about the future either by using the word will or by using the term going to. I will go there, I'm going to go there. Okay, even though these two are used interchangeably, they are not the same. The meaning is not the same. So simple future tense. In the simple future tense, we talk about things that will happen in the future. Okay, and we can use two words. We can either use will or we can use going to. And generally, the verb that we use is the V1 form of the verb. However, when you use will, then the meaning is different. When you use going to, then the meaning is slightly different. So what is the difference? When you talk about the future and you use the word will, then remember, when you use the word will, then generally that future action will happen without your intention, without you having any control over it. Okay, it will happen without your intention. That means you have no control over it. Whether you like it or you do not like it, the sun will shine tomorrow. Whether you like it or you don't like it, Peter will be 15 next Tuesday. So you have no control over it. Okay, it happens without your intention. And if there is any prediction or assumption, means if there is less surety of something happening in the future, then you should use the word will. If you say, I think Sue will arrive in Paris at 6 p.m., that means you are not absolutely certain. This may or may not be true. So we use will when something happens without your intention, you have no control over it. We use will when we are not sure that something will happen in the future. It's merely a prediction or assumption. Or if a spontaneous action is going to happen, it was not planned, it is spontaneous, then also we should use the word will. For example, in the market, if you see your school friend, what will you say? Hang on, I will have a word with you. Now this meeting was not planned. This meeting was not planned, it was spontaneous. It is going to be spontaneous. So when you take a spontaneous action, you're going to take a spontaneous action in the future, then you should use the word will. Okay? But then when should you use going to? When should you use going to? In the simple future tense, you should use going to when the action in the future is planned. That means there is more certainty. When the certainty is higher, when the certainty is higher, then use going to. For example, we are going to sing at the party. They are going to fly to South Africa. Why I'm saying certainty is higher? Because when you say we are going to sing at the party, then you can probably see this group practicing. They are probably searching for the costumes. They are rehearsing for it. And when you say they are going to fly to South Africa, they probably have already brought the tickets. So there is more certainty because it's planned. And plus, I told you, when you are certain, even though 100% with 100% certainty you cannot say, but if the certainty is higher, if you are certain that something is going to happen in the future, then also you should use going to. For example, if a person is driving the car in a very dangerous way, what will you say? Look at that car. It is going to crash into the yellow one. There is higher certainty. But when you say the car will crash into the yellow one, then there is less certainty. Do you understand? This is the difference between will and going to. Even though people use these two interchangeably, but this is actually the difference between the words will and going to. This is simple future tense. So we have discussed simple present tense. We have discussed simple past tense. We have discussed simple future tense. One variation is done. Is there anything you did not understand? Anything that requires clarification, please ask. Okay, I believe you're already aware of all these things, most of it. Yes, you are already aware, right? Now we'll talk about progressive tenses. Some books will also call them the continuous tenses. They are the same. The progressive tenses and the continuous tenses. This is the second variation. Now, under progressive tenses, we will have three time frames: past, present, and future. First, let's talk about the present. The present progressive tense. Whenever you use the present progressive tense, you will always use words like am, is, are. When you are using am, is, are, then you are using present progressive tense. Okay? So present progressive tense is used with am, is, are, and it is used when you want to describe actions that are happening at the moment of speaking. That means now. Actions are happening right now. For example, Peter is reading a book now. She is listening to the radio. So if you go to Peter's room, you will find him reading the book. If you go to this girl's room, you will find her listening to the radio. I am studying. I am studying at college. I am studying at college means at the moment. Even though at the moment of speaking it is not happening, but in the present. This is what I am going through. It is a continuous basis. On a continuous basis, I go to the college. So I am studying in college. So very simple. We know we are using present progressive tense when we use words like am, is, or are. And we use it when we describe actions that are happening at the moment of speaking. This is present progressive tense. Past progressive tense. We use past progressive tense always with the words was or were. Okay? And we use this tense when we want to talk about something which was happening at a special time in the past. It was happening at a special time in the past. That means generally the time would be mentioned. For example, if I say Peter was reading a book when? Yesterday evening. She was listening to the radio when? At 8 o'clock on Thursday. So usually, not always, usually what happens is that we mention the past time. We mention the past time. If I'm using was or were, then I know that I am using past progressive tense. The second situation in which we use past progressive tense is that when two actions are happening simultaneously. Two actions were happening simultaneously even if these two actions do not influence each other. For example, I can say Anne was writing a letter while Steve was reading the New York Times. So two actions were happening simultaneously in the past without having an influence on each other. This is the second situation in which we use past progressive tense. And plus, yes, if you remember, I told you that when we were discussing simple past tense, and I told you that whenever you want to describe something that was happening in the past and it was interrupted, then what happens? Then that sentence has two tenses. While we were sitting at the breakfast table, the telephone rang. So the telephone rang is in the simple past, and we were sitting is in the past progressive. This I have already, number 3, I have already discussed under simple past. Okay. Plus, last but not the least, the past progressive tense is also used when you want to talk about actions that were repeated in the past, and whoever is talking about that action is trying to tell you that he used to be irritated. He used to be irritated when these actions were repeated. For example, the teacher probably saying, Andrew, oh, Andrew was not a very good student. Andrew was always coming in late for the class. Andrew was always coming in late. So that the teacher who is actually speaking, he wants to convey his irritation. Okay? So these are the situations. These are the situations in which we are using past progressive. Very easy way to learn is that we always use was or were for past progressive and is and are for present progressive. What about future progressive? Future progressive. In the future progressive, we will always use either will be or shall be. We will always use will be or shall be, and we use this tense when we describe an ongoing action which will continue into the future. So something is ongoing, it's already there, and in the future it will extend to the future as well. Okay, when something is ongoing and it will extend to the future, then we should use will be or shall be. For example, the students will be studying for exams throughout the month of December. Now, perhaps this is the 2nd of December. This is the 2nd of December. So the entire month of December is in the future. So you want to say that this action will continue in the future for the entire month of December. This time tomorrow. Tomorrow is yet to come. It is the future, and this action will be in continuity. I will be playing tennis. Okay, this is future progressive tense. So we know that we are using future progressive tense because we will be using will be and shall be. Till now, anybody has any problem? Okay. Many people ask me, what is the difference between will and shall? Should we use will or should we use shall? Are you aware? You are aware? Okay. Okay. Very quickly, I'll tell you that normally shall. Okay. The first situation, when you use it for yourself. Okay. When you use it for yourself. And number 2, when you use shall for others. Actually, when you use it for yourself, then generally it conveys the idea of less certainty. When there is less certainty, then we say I shall. Okay, I shall do this. When you say I will do this, there is more certainty. When you say I shall do this, there is less certainty. When you use shall for others, you shall not do this. Okay, you shall do this, you shall not do this. Then generally, then the connotation becomes negative. When you use it for others, because then you're trying to implication is that you think that you are some kind of a king, or you are some person who is in power or authority, and you have the right to pass commands to others. Okay, so that is why when you use it for others, it becomes derogatory. You shall go there. It seems as if you are the king and you are passing orders. So because of these two problems with the word shall, generally whenever we have a choice, whenever we have to make a choice between shall and will, it is always advisable to use the word will and not use the word shall. Is this clear? Okay. Right. Now, two of the variations we are done with, simple and progressive tenses. Now we'll come to complications. Now the complications start with the perfect tenses. Now what happens in the perfect tenses? Action, whenever any action is somehow connected to the past, it started in the past, but it probably did not end in the past. It has some, even though it started in the past, we see the impact in the present, or probably we may see the impact in the future as well. Whenever any action jumps from one timeline to another timeline, then we should use the perfect tenses. Okay, so let's take a look at the three perfect tenses. First one is the present perfect tense. Remember, in order to use the present perfect tense, you will have to use have or has. Okay, you will have to use have or has, and the present perfect tense is used when you want to describe any action that occurred in the past. But when in the past you don't know, when you don't know the time, but it happened in the past. Okay, or it can be used for actions that started in the past and continue in the present. So remember this, when you know the time when it happened in the past, then it is simple past tense. When you know that it happened in the past, but you don't know when in the past, then the time is indefinite. Then it is present perfect. Or if something started in the past and the impacts are still seen in the present, then also we use present perfect tense. And the best way to remember this is that you will always use have or has. Okay. So whenever you talk about experiences, whenever you tell or whenever you ask a person if they have had some experience without asking them about the time, then actually you are using the present perfect tense. When you say, has Peggy ever been to Tokyo? Have you ever tasted continental? When in the past, I'm not mentioning. Anytime. Has Peggy ever been to Tokyo? Anytime in the past. When you say, I have seen the Taj Mahal, means in the past I've seen Taj Mahal. When? I don't remember. But yes, I have seen the Taj Mahal. Okay? So this is the first situation. When you want to talk about something that happened in the past and you don't know the time of the past, then it is present perfect tense. Plus, when you talk about past actions and you think of the effect in the present. So even though an action happened in the past, the effect is still there. For example, when you say, I have cleaned my room, the impact is that it is clean now. You can check. It's all spick and span. He has eaten all the biscuits. Check. The packet is empty. Somebody has broken the window. When you say somebody has broken the window, that means all the glass is shattered. All the dust is coming inside. All the wind is coming inside. I have already finished my homework. Impact is that I'm free now. I can watch TV. And yes, I have had my lunch. Many people say, what is the difference between have had and had had? I have had my lunch. Okay. When you say have had, that means I have eaten my food. Okay. I have eaten my food in the past, but when in the past, I'm not mentioning. It can be recently also. It can be recently also. And the impact is that I cannot eat more. The impact is that I cannot eat more because my stomach is full. So when somebody says, come and join us for lunch, what will you say? No, I have had my lunch. I have had my lunch means I have eaten it. You are not mentioning when you have eaten it, but the impact is still present. the impact is that your stomach is full. So whenever now you come across have had, many people have a lot of confusion. What is the difference between have had and had had? Had had is something that we will discuss later in the past perfect tense. In the present perfect tense, remember have had. Over here, had, the word had actually signifies you having done something. So I have, what have I done with my lunch? I have eaten it. When you say I have had this experience, I have had this experience means I have done it. Are you getting this? Using two verbs are allowed. Okay. Over here, actually, Raj, over here, the word had is not being used as a verb. Have is being used as a verb. Okay. Over here, the word had is being used in the sense of, possessed or done something. It is used in that sense. It is used in the sense of having, gone through an experience. The verb over here is actually have. Okay. When you say I have had enough, I have had enough of your nonsense. That means I'm in possession of enough of your nonsense. Now stop. This is what you're trying to say. Okay. So remember, whenever you use have or has, it is present perfect tense. Now, I told you about the first situation was when you talk about something that happened in the past and you don't know when it happened in the past. Second situation is when you want to talk about something that happened in the past, but the impact is present till now. The effect is there in the present. This is second situation. Plus, if you very recently completed an action, but then you're not telling me when, it is completed, but when it was completed in the past, if there is no time reference, then also it is the present perfect tense. Usually, such sentences will have the word just. Usually. For example, when you say, he has just played handball. What is the consequence? The game is over, he is tired. He has gone out or he has just gone out. You can check his room is empty. Or he has just gone out, go and catch him. You'll probably meet him on the way out. So something has just happened in the past. So even though it was completed in the past, but when in the past, you don't know. So when you don't know the time, remember, it is present perfect tense. If you use a specific time in the past, if you say that something happened at a specific time in the past, then it cannot be present perfect tense. If you say it happened yesterday, then you are actually using simple past tense. When you know the time of the past, it is simple past tense. When you don't know the time of the past, it is present perfect tense. How do you know you are using present perfect tense? You will be using have or has. Okay? Did you understand this? Okay. Now let's talk about past perfect tense. In the past perfect tense, you will always use the word had. You will always use had. This form is used with had, and it is used when you want to show the order. Remember, you want to show the order of two events that took place in the past. You want to show the order of two things that took place in the past. So for example, two past actions are combined. The first action will be completed, then the second one will start. Okay, so two actions happened in the past. One was completed, then the second action started. The one that was completed is put in the simple past. The one that was completed is put in the simple past, and the second which started after the completion of the first one is put in the past perfect. So let's see. Mary had read the book before she watched the film. After Amy had gone home, it started to rain. Sorry, अब मैंने उल्टा बोल दिया. Wait. Over here, I said the opposite. It is not the second action. It is the first action. The first action is put in the past perfect, not the second action. So Mary had read the book. First this happened, then she watched the film. Then second thing happened. After Mary had gone home, first this happened, then second it started to rain. Second action happened. By the time I left for school, the cake had been baked. Okay, this is the first action. Second thing, what happened? I left for school. I had my lunch. First this happened, then he offered me a biscuit. Second thing happened. So now see, I had my lunch. That means I had finished my lunch. I had eaten my lunch. Then he offered me a biscuit. So two things happened. Two things happened in the past. पहले मैंने lunch खत्म किया, and then he offered me a biscuit. So when you talk about two past actions, when two past actions are combined, the first action completes and then the second one starts, then the first action is put in the past perfect tense. How do you know you are using past perfect tense? You will be using the word had. This is the first situation. This is the first situation. Second situation is that many times we want to express some kind of a wish or desire about the past, even though we cannot change it. If we want to express a desire or wish about the past which we cannot change, that also is put in the past perfect tense. When you say, I wish you had told me, now nothing can be done. She wishes she had known about his problems, but now nothing can be done. It's over. Okay, so remember, if you are using have or has, you are using simple present perfect tense. If you are using had, you are using past perfect tense. Is this clear? Any clarification is required till now? Okay. And if you are using will have or shall have, if you are using will have or shall have, then you are using future perfect tense. And when do you use the future perfect tense? When you want to describe an event in the future that will precede another event. Again, in the future, two events will happen, 1 and 2. Just like in the past perfect tense, two events happened in the past. First one was completed, then the second happened. Similarly, in the future, two events will happen. First one will complete, then the second will start. By the end of the day, I will have studied for all my tests. First this will happen, then the day will end. Okay, I will have left. First this will happen, then you will go to see him. Before you go to see him, then this will happen in the future. I shall have finished my project work. First this will happen, then that time will come. So remember, the simple perfect, the past perfect tense and the future perfect tense, they generally talk about two actions. They generally talk about two actions happening, either in the past or in the future. Okay? This is future perfect tense. Okay. We are done with 9 tenses. We are done with 9 variations, 9 tenses. We have 3 more to go. And these 3 are also very, out of these 3, the first 2 are important. So now I will, if the perfect tenses are clear, can I move to the next variation, perfect progressive tenses? Okay. Now see, it's perfect also, it is progressive also. It can be past, present, future. It can be past, it can be present, it can be future. Right? So we have to see in which situation why do we use the perfect progressive tenses, how we come to know that we are using perfect progressive tenses. First of all, let us talk about the present perfect progressive tense. Now, if you remember, in the perfect tense, we use have or has. Present perfect. In the present perfect tense, we use have or has. Remember that? If you want to make it progressive, then just add the word being. To the words have and has, just add the word being. And we use present perfect progressive tense when we want to describe something that began in the past, continues into the present, and may continue into the future. So it actually crosses three timelines. It started in the past, it continues in the present, and it may continue in the future. Till now, we have not seen this kind of a variation. Okay, so how do we talk about such situations? We use have been or has been. So when you say I have been waiting for you for 3 hours, so 3 hours are past. In the present, I am still waiting. And if you don't turn up, then in the future, I will continue waiting. Or I may stop. I may not wait. So it may or may not continue into the future. But 3 hours have gone and I'm still waiting. Similarly, she has been studying since morning. Morning is past. She is still studying. And right now she may stop or she may continue studying till the evening. She may continue her studies till the evening. Right? So 3 time periods are involved in present perfect progressive tense. Now remember, there's a very good way in which you know that you are using present perfect progressive tense. One is that you will be using have, whenever have or has in combination with been. This is the first indication. Second indication is that in these sentences, you will either use the word for or you will use the word since. Okay? For and since, you can see. In the present perfect progressive tenses, whenever we form sentences in the present perfect progressive tense, we use words for and since in combination with have been or has been. Now the question is, are these two words the same? When I say I have been waiting for you since 3 hours or I have been waiting for you for 3 hours, what should I use? So these two words, for and since, they are the indicators, they are the identifiers of present perfect progressive tense. So what is the difference? Because both these words are used for present perfect progressive tenses, what is the difference? The difference is that whenever you want to indicate a duration or a period of time, you should use the word for. Whenever you want to indicate a starting point of an action, you should use the word since. So there is a difference. When you want to talk about a starting point, use the word since. When you want to talk about a duration or a period of time, use the word for. For example, he has been living here for, what is the period? 7 years. We have been here for, what is the duration? 6 weeks. She has been playing tennis for, what is the duration? Long time. Whereas, if I want to talk about the starting point, I will use the word since. I have worked here since 2004, so I started in 2004. She has been going to dancing lessons since April. April was the starting point. They have been unhappy since they left college. The starting point was the time, the day they left college. So when you want to talk about starting point, use the word since. When you want to talk about excuse me, duration or period of time, use the word for. Is this clear? Okay. Now we talk about past perfect progressive tense. We know that in the past perfect tense we use had. Just add the word been. When you add the word been, it becomes past perfect progressive tense. When do we use it? We use the past perfect progressive tense, number one, when we want to talk about actions that continued for a long time in the past, but they have recently come to completion. So something happened for a long time in the past and now it has stopped. For example, Mary had been living in this house for 7 years. For a long time she had been living, now it has stopped. She has left. She has vacated this house. They had been living together for 15 years. So they stayed together for a long time, now they are separated. This is finished. Okay, so something continued for a long time but it has come to an end. Or number two, when an action of some duration was completed before another past action occurred. Now see, second one is slightly problematic. Two actions happened in the past. One of them continued for a certain time period and was completed. Then the second one started. So remember, there are two actions, but one of them continued for a certain time and was then completed, and then the second one started. For example, when Mr. Mukherjee came to school in 1995, this is the second action. Before this happened, Mr. Anand had already been teaching there for 5 years. So 5 years had been completed when the second action started. Okay, so two actions are there. One action happened for a certain duration, that is 5 years. 5 years completed, then the second action started. You can see the second situation. Before the fire alarm rang, before this happened, the student had been studying. So the student, the student studying must have continued for some time, and then it was completed. Then the fire alarm rang. So a very good way is to know that the best way to know that you are using past perfect progressive is when you use had been. And just like we added been to the perfect tenses in order to make them perfect progressive, similarly, if you want to convert future perfect tense to future perfect progressive tense, then will have and shall have, to the words will have and shall have, just add been. Okay, so future perfect progressive tense is when you use will have been or shall have been, and we generally use this verb form when we describe a future ongoing action that will occur before a specified time, even though this tense is not very common. So remember, what happens? Two actions will happen in the future. Two actions will happen in the future. One of them will happen for a certain period of time in the future, and then the second one will start. So by the end of next year, this is a second future action. Before this happens, another future action will have continued for a certain period of time. The students will have been studying math for 5 years. Okay, so before next July comes, before this happens, I will have been teaching for 20 years. So in the future, an action would be in continuity for a certain time before another action will happen in the future. Will have been. So the easiest way to convert it into a perfect progressive tense is just to add the word been. To the perfect tense, just add been. It automatically gets converted to perfect progressive tense. So for the simple perfect tense, if you want to convert it into the present perfect tense, if you want to convert it to present perfect progressive tense, just add have been, has been. Similarly, if you want to convert uh, past perfect to past perfect progressive tense, just add been to the word had, and same thing happens with future perfect tense. Just add been to the words will have. So in all, this is what happens. In all, if you look at these 12 tenses, this is what happens generally. Exceptions are there, but this is what happens generally. We can very quickly see that generally in the simple present we use V1, in the simple past we use both V1 and V2. Simple future we can use will or going to. Generally we use V1. Present progressive we use am, is or are plus the present participle. Present participle means the ing form of the verb. In the past progressive we use was or were and we use the present participle. In the future progressive we use will be or shall be and the present participle. In the present perfect we have to use have as have or has, and generally we use V3 form of the verb. In the past perfect we use had and V3 form of the verb. In the future perfect we use will or shall have and V3 form of the verb. To convert it into perfect progressive, present perfect progressive, just add the word been to has or have, and we can use V3 before both. Past progressive, past perfect progressive, just add been to the word had, and generally we use V4. And future perfect progressive, just add been to the words will or and shall have, and we generally use V4. So in short, this is the table. So even if you go through this table, I think that will be sufficient. Tell me if you have any issues till now. Anything you did not understand? No issues? Okay. Now, if you have no issues, there is another thing that I need to discuss with you in verbs. That is called conditionals. Whatever tenses we saw over here, the rules that we saw, there are some statements that are conditional statements. In normal sentences, there are 12 tenses. But remember, if the sentence is a conditional sentence, what is a conditional sentence? Conditionals are if sentences. Okay? Conditional sentences will contain two parts. Completion of one part depends on the other. Such sentence is called a condition. Generally, not always, generally such statements are hypothetical in nature. Generally, not always. If you say, if it rains today, I will carry an umbrella, or then I will carry an umbrella. So it is conditional. If it rains today, then I will carry an umbrella, or I cannot. I mean, the word then is implied. Even if I remove it, nothing will happen. If it rains today, I will carry an umbrella. Such statements are called conditionals. Okay. Now remember that in conditional sentences, our normal rules, our conditional statements do not have 12 tenses. Conditionals, for conditionals will always have two clauses. That means two parts. There would be two parts. This is part number one, this is part number two. One will be the if part and the other one will be the then part. What is going to be the tense of the then part will depend on the tense of the if part. And in conditionals, there are only 4 possibilities. Conditionals have only 4 tenses. For conditional statements, you cannot use any of the 12 tenses. You will have to use just these 4. There are 4 tenses for conditionals And what are these four tenses? Let me just show you. This table will show you. Okay. There are two present tense forms for conditionals, one past tense form and one past perfect tense. These are the four forms. These are the four tenses, right? The first one, which is called the zero conditional, what happens is we use this when we want to express something that is general. We want to express general or universal truths or general habits. Okay, it is called zero conditional. Then what happens? If it is a zero conditional, then we use the simple present tense in both the clauses. The if part also and the then part also. If my son sleeps, I usually take a nap. In the both parts, we will use simple present tense. This will only happen when you are talking about universal truths or general habits. But if you are not talking about general things or general habits, then we use, if you are using simple present tense, then you will have to use the word will, and you will have to use the base verb. Base verb means V1. So if you say, if you exercise, you will become healthy. Healthy is V1. If you exercise, you will become healthy. Remember, if it is not a zero conditional, then you will have to use the word will for the present tense. If you want to use it in the past tense, then what happens? Then you will say, if you exercised, you can see exercises is in the simple past. When it is in the simple past, then you will have to use the words would or could. And then you will have to use the base form of the verb, that is V1. If you exercised, you would become healthy or you could become healthy. This is the past tense. And the fourth one, which is called past perfect tense, and because it is perfect, you will have to use the word had. In this, what happens is that you will use if plus the past perfect. If you had exercised, then you will have to use would, could, and also you will have to use have, and you will have to use past participle, that means V3. So this is like a formula. This is like a formula. You will have to learn this like a formula. Okay? If you had exercised, you would or could have become healthy. So for conditional statements, remember, for conditional statements, these are the four situations. These are the four tenses that we find in conditionals. Conditionals cannot have any other tense. These are the four tenses used for conditionals. Remaining sentences that are not conditionals, they can have 12 tenses. Is it clear? Okay, I know it's all theoretical in nature, but this is just like a formula. This is how it is, right? So remember that for conditionals there can be only four possibilities for the if clause as described in the chart above, and depending upon the same, you can arrive at the correct construction of the tense of the then clause. There are only four possibilities for conditionals. Remaining sentences, they can be 12 tenses. This is what you need to remember. These are things which you need to remember as far as tenses are concerned. Okay. Anything that requires clarification till now, please ask. Otherwise, I'll show you a small exercise. Okay, there's a small exercise over here. You will see that generally it is easy. It is pretty easy to solve it. Just a minute. Yes, I have given you the rights. You can check this exercise is how many questions? Number 3, 5, 13, 15. There are 15 questions. There are 15 questions, so I think 15 minutes will be sufficient. 15-20 minutes. It is 7:50 right now. Okay. Uh, 7:50 right now. 8:05 or 8:10 we will start the discussion. I've given you rights. Please solve it. Please try to solve it. Okay. I think let's check. Question number 1. Of all the vast tides of migration that have swept, it's the past, that, that have swept throughout history, maybe none is more concentrated. So because these are same waves that have swept in the past, so I cannot use the present tense. I will have to use the past tense. Of all the tides that have swept in the past, maybe none was. Okay. So I think answer for this question should be E. Perhaps none was more concentrated. Yes, absolutely. I told you it is very easy. When you look at the questions, it is very easy, and these are GMAT questions. Number 2, the widely accepted Big Bang theory holds that the universe began, this is the past, it began in an explosive instant 10 to 20 billion years ago and has been expanding ever since. So something started in the past and it continues. If it continues, I am using the correct expression, has been expanding, which means answer is A. Yes, it has been expanding, right. Number 3, carnivorous mammals can endure what would otherwise be lethal because they have a heat exchange network which kept the brain from getting too hot. Now, this is something which, this is a fact that we are talking about. Why is it that carnivorous animals can endure something? We are talking about a fact. It is a universal truth or fact. So I cannot use the past tense here. Kept is past. I will have to use the simple present tense. So from the options, which is the simple present tense? Keeps. Okay, it is, they have a heat exchange network which keeps the brain, or that keeps the brain. Number B. Answer should be B for question number 3. Number 4. Retail sales rose 0.8 of 1% in August, intensifying expectations. Now, when you have expectations, your expectations are always about the future. So what are the expectations? The expectations is that personal spending in the July-September quarter more than doubled. Over here, I have used the past. But question is, how can I say it is my expectation and then I talk about the past? When you have an expectation, that expectation is about the future. So the expectation is that the sale will rise or it would more than double. That is why answer for this question, expectation is that the sales would more than double. I think B should be the answer. Yes, for question number 4. Are you getting this till now? Number 5, the Iroquois were primarily planters. Past है ये, but supplementing cannot, it's not possible. But supplemented, it would have been possible if I had used supplemented. I will have to use supplemented. Now, because I'm using but, I cannot say and. They were primarily planters, although they supplemented their cultivation of maize, squash, and beans with fishing and hunting. Absolutely. Number 5, answer is D. Any doubt, anybody till now? Okay. Each of the following sentence contains one or more underlined sections. If an underlined section contains no end error, mark it as correct. Otherwise, write down the correct version. Although Bernard normally, when you say normally, simple present tense, normally eats inexpensive foods and indeed is eating a hot dog right now. So right now it is happening, is eating is correct. It is present progressive. Raj ate nahi ho sakta. In the second one, this action is happening right now. So you will have to use present progressive. Present progressive is always used with am, is, or are. Okay. So right now he is eating a hot dog. At tomorrow's party, he will eat. He will eat, or he is going to eat. If you are certain, then you should use going to. If you are not very certain, then you can say he will eat. Will or going to, both will work over here. He will or he's going to eat lobster and steak at tomorrow's party. Absolutely. Number 6. Number 7. Mozart, who died in 1791. So this action was completed in the past. He died in 1791. Has lived in Salzburg for most of his life? No. Had lived. Yes. Not has lived. He had lived in Salzburg for most of his life. Absolutely. Number 8. The local government has built the school that was destroyed by the earthquake. So, one action happened in the past. It was destroyed in the earthquake. And second action then happened in the past. So, I cannot say has built, had built. Two actions in the past, one completed, then the second started. I'll have to use past perfect. The local government built the school. Nikita, if you say the local government built the school, then it implies that the school is present. The school is there, existing. Okay? Isn't it right? No. The school is no longer there. It was destroyed by the earthquake. That was destroyed. The school that was destroyed by the earthquake. So we know that it is no longer there. For example, Taj Mahal is there still? Yes or no? What do we say? Taj Mahal was built. Taj Mahal was built by Shah Jahan. Do we say Taj Mahal had been built or Shah Jahan had built? We say Shah Jahan built the Taj Mahal. Okay, you are using the word rebuild. You are using the word rebuild, but that's not there. Over here we have the word built. It's implying. Okay, so you believe that this sentence is trying to say that first the school was destroyed and the local government has rebuilt it. That is what you're trying to say. But the word rebuilt is not there. If that had been the case, then I should have used the word rebuilt. Okay. Number 9. I'll move to question number 9. Water freezes if it. This is conditional statement. This is conditional statement. If this happens, then if it is cooled. If it is cooled, yes. Water freezes if it is cooled to 0 degrees Celsius. We have two more conditionals, 10 and 11. Helen would feel better if she swallowed. Remember, swallowed is past. When the conditional is past, then I'll have to use would. Correct. No, it's correct. If she swallowed this pill, Helen would feel better. Okay. Swallows. In fact, I'll just show you it. If I can take it back to the conditional ones here, you can see we're talking about this one. Exercised. If you exercise, if she swallowed, she would. I'll have to use would. Okay. Okay. Next one. Helen will feel better if she swallows this pill. Present. If it is present, simple present tense, and you're not talking about a habit or a universal fact, then you will have to use will. So this also is right. Both are right. Because this is the first conditional. Okay. Coming to number 12. In the Fischer-Tropsch process, which developed in Germany by Franz Fischer and Hans Tropsch. So these are people who developed. Okay, it did not develop by itself. So I'll have to add the word was, which was developed. It did not develop by itself, which was developed in Germany. So this process was developed in Germany. What happens in this process? In this process, coal is converted into a liquid fuel similar to petroleum. The second part is all right because this is what the process does regularly on a daily basis. But this process was developed by two people, two Germans. So the second part is right, first part is wrong. Choose the correct verb tense in the parentheses for each sentence below. Yesterday afternoon, clouds rolled in, the sky grew ominous, and thunder obviously was. Thunder was heard in the distance because this happened yesterday afternoon. I'll have to use past. I will have to use the past tense. Then, before the union leadership even began salary negotiations. So before this past action happened, some other past action happened. So it had made up its mind to stand firm in its position. So this is the first past action that happened, then the second past action happened. Two past action happened. First one was completed, then the second happened. So it is past perfect. Then the Boy Scouts love or loved their new clubhouse, which they built last summer. So they built last summer. Now this house is still present. This house is still present. It's not destroyed. So they love, not loved. If I had said which they had built last summer, the moment I had, then the implication is that something is wrong with the clubhouse. The clubhouse does not exist now. It's completed, it's gone. But it's still there. And that is why I'll have to use love. The Boy Scouts, they love their new clubhouse. Did you understand? Okay. So I think that's it. There are no more questions. If there is any doubt you would like to ask, please ask. And yes, please go through this PPT 2 or 3 times. Things will be clear. Try to form sentences, and then if you face any problems, please ask. Okay. When we meet tomorrow in error correction, we will take a look at a topic called parallelism and comparison. Parallelism and comparison, there are many things that will be very surprising for you. So tomorrow when we meet from 6:30 to 8:30, we will take up a fresh error correction topic, which is parallelism and comparison. And if you have any queries regarding any previous sessions, you are free to ask. Otherwise, you can You can log off. I think you have another session. From what time? From 8:30 or 9? From 9. Okay. So you can quickly eat something if you would like, and then come back for the next session. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Music